Homelander in the Deep. Man, this is one of the more complex and psychologically abusive relationships that I think I've seen in any type of storytelling. This is really deep. This is deep submission. And let's take a look at the relationship between Homelander and the Deep on that level. Now, this is not a friendship. This is not brotherhood. There's no mutual respect. So what exists between Homelander and the Deep is a slow, methodical digestion of another man's soul. That's what Homelander is doing. He is consuming everything about the Deep. Now, Homelander doesn't even see him as a person. This is a mirror. It's a reflection of obedience that keeps his own God complex polished to the shine, right? The Deep, being desperate for validation, gives up this mirror willingly. And Homelander already feeds on worship. The Deep has been starving for belonging since day one. So together they perform this very grotesque symbiosis. This narcissist and his codependent acolyte, and they're locked in this loop of cruelty masquerading as some type of purpose. Now, obviously, we got to look at the Deep on his own outside of this. This is the broken follower archetype at the highest level. Insecure, needy, incapable of forming his own identity outside of approval. And it's interesting, they bring him from his frat boy past where he's like at the top of it, right? He wants to be respected, loved, and adored, but he actually lacks the internal compass to even justify saying those things. So when he's exiled from the Seven, he loses what little sense of worth that he actually has. Remember when he was like in, I think it was Ohio or something like that. So we really saw him wilding out, like in that isolation where it's just him. But by the time he's reinstated, he's a man without barriers. This is like he was broken down. This is the perfect clay for Homelander to shape into his idol of submission. Now, to the Deep, Homelander isn't just a leader. He's God. He has all the access to everything. He's what the Deep would be if he could. So when you see your God in human form, quote unquote, the temptation to endure anything to remain in his light is just, it's overwhelming. And even the light that burns, even while it's burning you with cruelty. Now let's talk about the Homelander part, because this is sadism at like epic levels. He's a sadist who mistakes control for love itself. Like that's what he thinks he's getting. So his cruelty isn't random. It's very ritual. It's very methodical. Every humiliation he inflicts is a reenactment of his own upbringing himself. Child raised in a lab, deprived of affection, taught that dominance equals worth. So we're not surprised that he comes out this way. When he forces others to kneel, he's conquering his own helplessness. It's all internal. So when he breaks them, he feels whole by breaking them. So the Deep really represents the perfect instrument for someone like Homelander because he doesn't fight back. He absorbs the pain, he validates the power, and reflects it like a broken mirror that still glints with the... Every time the Deep obeys, Homelander's inner child whispers, "You're in control now." And it's very addictive, and it really fulfills him. And I'm going to get into a couple of very powerful scenes. Like, there's the Timothy scene, which I can't talk about these two men without talking about Timothy. Like, when Homelander forces the Deep to eat Timothy, the octopus that he loves. This isn't just cruelty. This is psychological and spiritual domination. He turns worship into sacrifice, which is not uncommon in cultish behavior. He's proving that his followers' devotion must come at all costs, even the things that you hold dearly, because there's no room for anything else. So, and Timothy wasn't just a pet. This was the last thing that the Deep actually cared about. This was his homie. They was friends. He was screaming, "Don't! What are you doing?" And making him devour him. This is such a slow, cruel way to kill him that, eating him alive, this is just annihilating any individuality that the Deep may have had and replacing it with just pure servitude. He literally consumes the last shred of your own identity, your empathy, your difference, your soul. And it's a faith test. If you love me, prove it by betraying the things that you love the most. Like, that's like, go slap your mama or something like that. And after this act that is so humiliating, like, it beats you to a place where rebellion is just impossible. The Deep's compliance becomes permanent. Now, he is willing to act out his bit of power on anything lower than him, because that's what he sees. So when he sees Annie walk in or Starlight walk in, and she's automatically lower than him on the hierarchy in the Seven, he immediately jumps on her. Like that, same within minutes, right, of meeting her, he's like, yeah, get down on your knees. So that shows you what his real character is. And this is why the Deep is never deserved of any type of empathy or sympathy at all. And this is, but then it gets deeper, right? Remember the scene where he tells the Deep, yeah, get on your knees and blow A-Train. And this is a moment, right? This is it. It's not about lust. This is about pure hierarchy. Homelander doesn't even care about the act itself. He cares about proving that his word is a law. So to make a man give up that part of himself, man, that's just like your weaponization of sexuality. This also expresses your own oppression. His obsession with controlling others' bodies mirrors his inability to control his own impulses, especially from childhood. Now, we're all talking about a guy who drinks breast milk like a child who's craving for lost nutrition. These demands, these public acts of sexual degradation, prove he's just beyond any type of vulnerability. Homelander doesn't desire pleasure, not in the sense that we do. He desires proof. Proof that he can corrupt anything. He can distort loyalty, and he can turn intimacy into theater itself. Like, because you're doing this to both the Deep and to A-Train at the same time. So it's really weird dynamic that he created by all three. Because A-Train's like, yeah, I don't want this, right? So this is really trauma bonding. This abuse has become the bond that is their relationship. Every moment of humiliation for the Deep becomes a twisted form of attention. Being degraded by Homelander paradoxically is the only time he feels seen and relevant. And this is textbook trauma bonding, where the abuser interprets cruelty, or the abused interprets cruelty as a connection because it's the only form of intimacy that they get. Homelander himself can't be loved. He can only be worshipped by his own definition. The Deep can't find love. He can only be owned. So these two pathologies really fit well together. The sadist needs the believer, and the believer needs the God. So it does work. So just looking at this relationship, it's kind of brilliant writing by the developers of the series. They are able to elevate Homelander into this kind of messiah and this demagogue who demands faith instead of thought, and the Deep is just his corporate follower, a man who's willing to give away all parts of his dignity just to stay inside of the temple. So this bond is a parable for how systems of control maintain themselves. They isolate you, they shame you, and then they convince you that obedience itself is salvation. So Homelander devours the Deep soul and calls it loyalty, and the Deep thanks him for it, because for the first time in his life, someone is telling him that he has worth. Even if your worth is zero, there's some worth to it. So these guys are not two men together. These are two pieces of one very disrupted psyche. The abuser and the abused, the narcissist and the codependent, the God and his worshiper, and their entire relationship is a reflection of humanity's darkest instincts, right? The craving to belong, even if it means bowing to a monster who eats your heart while you're smiling. So very complex relationship. Give me your thoughts in the comment section. As always, I ask that you hit that like and subscribe.